All right, guys, it's Wednesday, February 19th, 2025, and I've got a big update for you on this major winter storm that's really starting to ramp up. Now, shifting gears, let's talk about the massive winter storm that's unfolding right now. Winter storm warnings are in effect for a huge stretch of the country, covering areas from Kansas all the way through Missouri, Arkansas, and Oklahoma, extending into Tennessee, Kentucky, and continuing eastward into the mid-Atlantic, reaching as far as the Outer Banks of North Carolina. This storm is shaping up to be a significant event, bringing heavy snowfall to many of the same regions that just experienced devastating flooding. That's a major concern because there are still places where water is covering roads, and with temperatures dropping, all that runoff from the hills is going to freeze. That's going to create an incredibly dangerous situation with black ice and treacherous driving conditions. So if you're in these areas, make sure you're prepared. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. Looking at where the worst impacts will be today, it seems like the hardest hit regions are going to be southeast Kansas, northeast Oklahoma, southwest Missouri, and northern Arkansas. Cities like Tulsa, Oklahoma are in the direct path of this storm, and we're expecting a significant mix of snow, ice, and sleet, which will undoubtedly cause major travel disruptions. Joplin and Springfield, Missouri, are also looking at some serious impacts with heavy snow accumulation expected. In Fayetteville, Arkansas, conditions are going to deteriorate quickly, leading to major delays and difficult travel. The same goes for Pittsburgh and southeast Kansas, as well as Paducah, Kentucky, and portions of southern Illinois. Even places like Bowling Green, Kentucky, and Wichita, Kansas will experience moderate travel issues. This storm is also making history in a small but noteworthy way. Today marks the first time we've issued a moderate risk for winter storm conditions under our new winter storm outlook system. Now, I get it, that might not sound like a big deal since we only started doing this about a week ago, but it's still significant. Alongside that, there's also an enhanced risk for winter weather impacts stretching from Kansas all the way into western Kentucky. As we move into tomorrow, those risks will shift further east, affecting Arkansas, Kentucky, Tennessee, Virginia, and North Carolina. As the storm progresses, we can start to piece together how it will unfold over the next several hours. By around 6 p.m. Eastern, we should see heavy snow falling in Tulsa, with lighter snow beginning to develop in Kansas City. St. Louis might start seeing some flakes around this time as well, but there's going to be some dry air to overcome before the snow really gets going there. Over in Paducah, snowfall will likely have already started, while areas around Little Rock and Fayetteville will be experiencing heavy freezing rain. Moving ahead to midnight, we expect a transition to snow and sleet in Memphis, with heavy snowfall intensifying in Fayetteville and Little Rock. Nashville will see snow developing around 2 Wednesday, and by 4, snowfall will be widespread across Memphis and Nashville. As we approach 5 to 6 a.m., Knoxville should begin seeing snow, while a broader band of moderate snowfall will cover a large portion of Kentucky, including Lexington, Moorhead, and Charleston, West Virginia. Between 5 and 9, this system will continue pushing eastward, but as it collides with the Appalachian Mountains, it's expected to weaken significantly. One interesting development with this storm is that the latest trends suggest it will have a much smaller impact on the Northeast than initially thought. While there was some speculation a few days ago about the potential for a significant winter storm affecting cities along the I-95 corridor from Washington, D.C., up through Philadelphia, New York City, and Boston, that scenario is now looking increasingly unlikely. Instead, the primary focus for snowfall along the East Coast will be a much smaller zone covering parts of southern Maryland, southern Delaware, Norfolk, Virginia, and portions of northern North Carolina. Compared to yesterday, the storm's track looks even more progressive, reducing the chances of significant snowfall for the Northeast. Snow totals across the affected regions remain largely consistent with what we've been predicting over the past several days. The heaviest snowfall will be concentrated in southeast Kansas, northeast Oklahoma, southern Missouri, and northern Arkansas, where a broad swath of snow exceeding 10 inches is expected, particularly around Springfield and Joplin. St. Louis, Kansas City, and Cincinnati are unlikely to see more than 2 inches, and Memphis will probably top out around an inch. Nashville could see 1 to 2 inches, while Paducah, Kentucky has the potential for 3 to 5 inches. The biggest snow totals will be in the Springfield to Tulsa corridor. While snow is the main story for many, icing will also be a significant issue, particularly in parts of North Carolina south of Greenville, where a quarter inch of ice accumulation is possible. That's enough to create hazardous travel conditions and power outages. Additionally, confidence is increasing that eastern Oklahoma and western Arkansas, including areas near Fort Smith, will see more icing than originally anticipated, with accumulations potentially reaching a tenth to a quarter inch. That could cause major travel problems and power disruptions. Once the storm exits, bitterly cold air will settle in. By Thursday morning, temperatures will plummet well below zero across much of the central and northern plains. In North Dakota, Minnesota, and parts of South Dakota, temperatures will reach as low as 30 def, and with strong winds, it could feel like 60 def. This will be some of the coldest air of the season so far. The good news is that the extreme cold won't stick around for too long. As we head into next week, temperatures will start moderating quickly from west to east. The Climate Prediction Center's 8 to 14-day outlook suggests a shift toward above-average temperatures for much of the country as we move into early March. As we move forward to tomorrow, the storm begins to affect regions like Tennessee, Kentucky, and parts of West Virginia by 1 p.m. on Wednesday, February 19. Snow will start falling in a light to moderate fashion across these areas, extending into Virginia and North Carolina as well. By 4 p.m., heavier snowfall will begin in earnest, especially in areas that will see significant accumulation. The low-pressure system, which begins over the Gulf, will move over Florida and redevelop off the southeastern U.S. coast. This transition from land to sea is a crucial moment, as it can briefly weaken the storm, but once it redevelops, intensification will follow, bringing heavier snowfall. The heaviest snowfall is expected to occur around 7 p.m., with the storm's most intense phase impacting northeastern North Carolina and southeastern Virginia. This storm will be significant enough that it's likely to be featured in a vlog for some viewers who live in the affected regions. For these individuals, this could be one of the top snowstorms they've seen in their local area. The heaviest snow will persist through the evening, with the storm still ongoing at 10 p.m. and continuing into 1 a.m. on Thursday. Even as the low-pressure system reaches its peak intensity, the broad nature of the low pressure means that snowfall will continue over a large region, not just concentrated in one specific area. By 4 a.m. Thursday, the snow starts to moderate in intensity as the low-pressure system shifts slightly westward, and by 7 a.m., snowfall will be tapering off in North Carolina and Virginia. However, snow showers will persist in these areas throughout Thursday, with lighter snow potentially adding another half inch to an inch of accumulation. The storm will wind down by 4 p.m. Thursday, with a quieter weather pattern setting in for the end of the week. Temperatures will remain cold, but no significant precipitation is expected for Friday or Saturday. Looking further into the future, the next possible storm system arrives on Sunday, February 23, bringing a potential for light to moderate snowfall in the Midwest, Great Lakes, and Northeast. However, this is still far enough out that it's difficult to say with certainty what the impacts will be. A more significant storm may develop in the Rockies by February 25, bringing heavy snow to the mountains and possibly affecting the Ohio Valley and Great Lakes region. However, tracking storms in the Midwest and Great Lakes has proven to be tricky this year, so there is a lot of uncertainty with this forecast. In the longer-term models are suggesting that colder air will surge into the east at the end of February and into early March. A cold front could bring severe weather and thunderstorms to the deep south around February 26, with a potential for snow in interior areas as the system moves eastward. However, there is still a lot of uncertainty about whether this cold will be strong enough to bring significant snowfall or whether the system will change its track. This kind of setup, where temperatures drop quickly and snow potentially follows, is always tricky to predict, and small changes in the storm's path could lead to large differences in snowfall amounts. By early March, the models are showing the possibility of additional storm systems developing in the deep south and moving eastward. These storms could bring a mix of snow, thunderstorms, and severe weather with a focus on the southeast and mid-Atlantic regions. Again, this is a long-range forecast, and these storms are far from certain, but the potential for significant weather events remains. As the weather shifts into March, temperatures could remain colder than usual, with a very cold blast expected around March 1-2. Despite some potential warming, colder air may continue to affect the east well into the early days of March. Overall, the trend seems to be leaning toward a colder, more active pattern as we move into the start of spring, even though the models are still not in perfect agreement. The GFS model suggests that the cold will return after a brief warm-up in early March, and it also hints at the potential for more snowstorms later in the month. However, this remains a speculative forecast, as models this far out often change significantly. The models show varying results for snowfall amounts, but generally both models agree on the significant snowfall for areas from the Midwest to the Northeast, especially in mountainous regions. While the European model suggests that snowfall totals could reach 6-10 inches for parts of North Carolina and Virginia, The FS model is predicting much lower snowfall amounts due to the mixing of rain and sleet in those areas. It's important to remember that these models often don't account for snowmelt or compaction due to sleet, which could reduce actual snow totals on the ground. Looking at the temperature forecasts, we can expect a series of cold blasts in the coming weeks, with especially cold air expected at the end of February and into early March. While the cold will not last indefinitely, the models suggest that March will start with much colder than normal temperatures, setting the stage for a potentially active weather pattern. However, the ultimate impact of these systems remains to be seen, and it's still too early to pinpoint exactly what the end of winter will look like. In summary, the next couple weeks will bring active weather to much of the country with the potential for both snowstorms and severe weather. However, there is still significant uncertainty about the exact tracks and intensities of these systems. Snowfall forecasts are especially tricky, with different models predicting vastly different outcomes. As always, it's important to stay updated on the latest forecasts as the storm systems evolve. Thanks for watching and see you next video.